A great time to start. Kick us off.
Oh my gosh, there's like trees on the runway. Look at that. Can you believe that? We're in Gaines County, Texas, taking off to fly to San Diego. What are we doing in San Diego?
Masterminds, events, a yacht party. It's going to be fun.
All right, while I take off from an airport that has tumbleweeds and a little bush on the runway.
I don't think I've seen that before.
Oh, I definitely haven't.
You've never seen that before?
No. Runways are usually blacktop.
You'd think they'd manicure them pretty good.
You would think so.
That would be important.
I hope the front camera here got that. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we're recording, so maybe we'll be able to see the tumbleweeds. Okay, so who are you, and what are you doing at the front of my airplane?
Well, dude, we literally just met at an event, FHL Fun and Hiking Live.
Yeah.
So I'm Brandon Poulin. My wife's Kaelin Poulin, also known as the LadyBoss. So,
you're known as the LadyBoss.
I'm known as Mr. LadyBoss, but actually Russell Brunson is now known as Mr. LadyBoss because he just bought our business.
All right, that's just a little emergency torque gauge, so I just had to torque a little bit up too high. I took care of it. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that's good. This is where when you're in the side seat with a pilot and there's red lights start blinking and you're doing an interview, you're like, I'm going to shut up now.
You gotta look at the guy next to you and go, is he freaking out? Because I don't know if I should freak out or not. So I wasn't freaking out. It's all good. That's totally normal when you got a heavy hand. Do you have like a lead foot?
Oh yeah, I got a lead foot for sure.
So it's like me, like a heavy hand with the throttle on the TBM. So okay, keep going. So LadyBoss.
So Russell Brunson just bought our business, LadyBoss.com. We're health and weight loss commerce, and so now we're transitioning. We're doing new things. So I ended up in your aircraft because we were both going to San Diego, and I was like, yeah, man, let's get on this plane. And it's beautiful. I love it, man. What's so cool is the huge, beautiful turboprop in the front. It's like you can almost not even see it right now, but then when you take a picture, you can see it.
Yeah, you hold up your phone, you can see like the individual blades. It's crazy. It's the shutter speed, you know?
Yeah, it's super cool. So I'm having a blast, man. This is so cool. And not only are you a beast in business, but you're an amazing pilot. And watching you do all of this while having business, we've been having business conversations while you've been flying this plane for 4 hours. So it's been fun to be here, man.
It's true. We went Orlando to some middle of nowhere place called Gaines County Airport in Texas. We got barbecue, and we drove a Suburban that had 200,000 miles on it.
Well, the first barbecue joint that we went to, we rolled up and it was closed, but it had a sign that said now selling guns and ammunition.
Yeah.
So we got out and took a picture with it. So we'll have to like show that on the video.
He actually took the guns and ammunition picture, sign off the wall, held it up so we could get a selfie with it, and the barbecue place next to each other.
That was perfect.
And then it said sold out, so I wasn't sure if they were sold out of guns and ammunition, sold out of barbecue.
Well, it's Texas, so probably both.
Agreed.
Probably both.
All right, so we've got, so we cover where we met. Ultimately in the show, what I want to do is I want to understand how people got into the business and some of the, like, what was their calling into this movement? So you guys have a massive movement in LadyBoss. So kind of going through this.
Great traffic, Skyline 7153, Echo, right base, runway 04, full stop.
Let me switch the radio here. I don't want to hear that guy. So understanding how they got into the business, like the call to adventure, that refusal of the call, and then kind of going from their ordinary world where they were into that supernatural world, starting that business and kind of coming out with mastery. So like going around the cycle of this hero's journey concept. So I'm interested to know, like, that first call to adventure that you had in this industry, like, tell that story a little bit, like, what was going on?
Yeah, so I actually met my wife in network marketing, right? So I remember I was like 17, I got home from the gym and opened my front door, and my dad was standing there, and he was like, hey, you need to try this shake. I made you a protein shake. And I was like, well, you never make me anything. Like, what is happening? And so I actually signed up, like, illegally for a network marketing company when I was like 17. You're supposed to be 18. So he showed me this video, and it was like, 3 and then 9 and then 27, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds way better than working hourly. I always kind of knew, like I always had a thing for like numbers, and like I was like a little kid in the back of like my mom's car, like rolling through the McDonald's drive-through, and I was like, okay, like so we're gonna like pay money for food, and then we're gonna like get food, but they have to like get the food and buy it first, and like so I always had like a brain like that. So the first like business opportunity that I ever saw in front of me, I took it, and that was network marketing, and I learned a ton in network marketing. I learned how to sell, how to lead, how to lead, how to speak, and ultimately just how to take massive action, right? And doing calls all the time and in-home parties, and it was like such a great entrepreneur training ground for me. And so my wife and I met through that business, and then fast forward about a few years later, after building it together, we decided to do our own. So we really I'd had little businesses like a windshield company before and little things like that, but nothing really substantial. And so we started what is now and is LadyBoss, coming out of MLM together. So
why not continue doing what you're doing? Like what was that piece that you were like, we want to go do this on your own? Like what was that transition? What was that calling? What was that like tap on the shoulder that you had from that?
Yeah, well, you know what's funny is I almost got forced into it in a way. It was almost like, so when we were in the network marketing company together, the next step for us was to go join a new company, right? Because the company we were in, it wasn't going well. Like the whole company as a whole was trending down, and we had offers from other network marketing companies for us to go and join them and bring our people and build with a new product to help people, right? And so the problem with that is that our families were both involved, and so if we would have left, we would have ended up making a decision that would have negatively impacted both my parents and hers because they were intermingled. And so we didn't want to make a move that would have ultimately hurt our parents' income because they were involved. And so it's kind of it's not super complicated, but in the tree of how things work, it would have negatively impacted family. And so it was like, well, we have to do something on our own now because we're not just going to go to another MLM. And so it kind of forced us both into that spot of like, all right, well, you know, you've got 20,000 followers on Instagram, and we know how to sell. We have all these skills. Like, I'll go learn how to make a site on the internet, and let's help people that way. Like, let's do our own thing, and let's do all the workouts. And at the time, Kaelin was an IFBB pro, so she had just won her pro card, set a world record, doing it in 2 shows, and she had this incredible journey of losing 65 pounds. And on my end, I love the computer. I've always been just thrilled with technology, and so it's like, well, there's guys that are doing stuff online. Like I think this guy Joe Donnelly had a membership site online where he would put up a workout every single day, and it was like $9 a month to join his program. And we were like, well, you could certainly create an amazing workout every single day because you're a pro, right? And so that's kind of we kind of almost fell into it, honestly.
And at that time, when you were making that idea, that transition, was there anything that was like holding you back and calling you like, you can't do it, say no, like any of that refusal of the call? Do you remember any of that? I realized it was a little while ago. But.
Yeah. It was probably, at this point, it was about 8 years ago. There was a ton. It was completely unknown. It was like we were just operating in someone else's vehicle, right? And instead of being in our own vehicle. And so the whole premise of starting out on our own and creating the business and having all the functions to manage, right? The finance, the people, the sales, the marketing, and like I didn't know any of it, right? It was really the first time we had gone out and branched out on our own. So, and then I think just we had been under the wing. Actually, it's crazy. A lot of the people that were our mentors in that company, the network marketing company, like they're against it because it negatively impacted them, right? So when we decided that we were going to leave, it was like there was discouragement from everywhere. I mean, it was like from our families who were involved. It was from corporate in that company, the mentors we had, and then just internally the fear. So honestly, it's crazy. I didn't really think about it until you said that and asked that question. It's like it was coming from all directions, but I think we just knew. Right? Like as a couple, we just knew. Like this is what God wanted us to do. It was like we were almost forced and pigeonholed into it, and we didn't have any other choice. I don't think it's really. It was like that, or like, oh well, if it doesn't work, we could get a job and we could train. We could be personal trainers. Okay, and that was like the backup plan.
So the next thing in the cycle usually is, okay, we've overcome that. We've overcome the fear, that refusal to call. Like the fact of where we want to go is stronger than where we are, you know. And then at some point there's like some meeting of the mentor, and you kind of get pulled into the supernatural world of what you're not used to. Your ordinary world is just not where you want to be anymore, and you get like a taste of something else. Was there any of that was happening at that time, like a mentor, somebody that was guiding, or you saw somebody else doing something like this that kind of said, okay, I want to go over there, and this person is almost like
Gandalf?
Like Gandalf, like Yoda.
Yoda, yeah.
If you think of like Morpheus with Neo.
Yeah,
but there's like the reflection character, you know? It's like this is the identity piece that I have. I'm starting to change my identity from who I am to who I want to be, and somebody is kind of reflecting that on you, like, hey, you can do it. Come over here. It's not, I've done it. Follow me.
Well, it wasn't someone I knew right away. And it's so funny how, like, just recently selling the company to Russell, 8 years later, he was that mentor, right? And so he literally, we stumbled upon his software, Clickfunnels, and I think we I remember it was like, he had like a training program, right? It was like the first, like, digital or business training program we had ever really, I'd been exposed to at that point. And I'm grateful it was his, and I didn't, waste time with someone else, because, he's the real deal. And so we ended up spending our last $1,000 basically on that program, and that gave us the whole toolbox that we needed. So we had the software, we had the information in the toolbox to be able to create what is now LadyBoss. And so the funny thing about it is there was like a $97 thing and then like a $1,000 thing. And I totally chickened out. I was like, just get the $97 thing. And Kaelin's like, did you buy it? Like, did you get it? And I was like, yeah, I just got the $97. We'll just start with that. And she was like, what? She was like, no, we're buying the $1,000 thing. Like, we're going for it. And so I literally chickened out. And my wife was like, what are you doing? Like, let's go. And so we actually we bought that, and that was a huge part. So Russell ended up being that really original mentor for us in terms of business, right? And so that was someone to lead us there. And then also I would say it was really two for me. So there was like the business evolution, and then there was the personal, spiritual, like, leadership evolution, which is the pastor at the church that I go to, and we became very close. And this is this is an organization with 10 locations and tens of thousands of people, an amazing or large organization. So if you want to take the spiritual aspect out and look at it like a business, really large organization and amazing leader. So with the two of them, really were the catalyst for Kaelin and I to grow both as human beings, to be able to handle the business, right? So not only like learning the tactics and the strategies in digital, but also being the type of people, the type of leaders, the type of managers, like, capable of growing something, I think. Because we had some skills, but man, you got to learn a lot of skills to grow a company, right? There's a lot of pieces,
Yeah, for sure. And I think, what's interesting is when you see somebody else do it, or even there's just a couple steps ahead, and they're willing to kind of give that back to you, a lot of times, like, when I look back on my story, it's this identity that needs to be, like, chipped away, these I am statements. Like, I am a network marketer, or I am I'm an employee, or I'm a team member. I'm not a business owner yet.
Yeah.
So to see somebody else that has that, it's like, you can do that. And you're like, no, I can't. Even inside. And they're like, yes, you can. And you just keep hearing it. Donkey is like my favorite one in Shrek. Donkey is always like, Shrek, like, that's not you. That's just not you. He's like, I'm an onion. He's like, no, you're a parfait. Like, everybody loves parfait. And Shrek just wants to be loved, right? And so he's like, no, I'm a disgusting onion that nobody wants to eat. I have layers. He's like, no, everybody, you want to be a parfait. It has layers too. And so he's constantly just like testing and pushing Shrek a little bit past his limits, just like it happens to us in business. So after that point, you meet these mentors. You have 2 of them at this point. And the next kind of phase that happens, like these trials and tribulations, these things that start coming up, like you get punched in the face, right? You get knocked down. So maybe there's one that you remember that really kind of like is ingrained in your memory because it was probably somewhat painful. Like what were some of the early setbacks that you saw, and then how did you overcome some of that?
Oh man, there's so many. It's like, one that comes to mind right now is I actually had an employee that I hired early on. So this is like, we had launched at LadyBoss. We made the first money, which was the best $23.49 I've ever made in my entire life. Our first customer was Yolanda. I remember we spent 2 months with no income, behind on credit cards. We the BMW, we had a 3 Series from the network marketing company. We were behind on the lease payment. We were behind on our rent at the house we were at in Albuquerque at the time, and we put it all out and just same day. And so that first customer felt so good, man. But I remember we had made the commitment to really take it seriously. We were doing well. We were laptop lifestyle, and so we had got an office. We started hiring after that, and I had this employee, man, and it tore me up, the rejection of that situation. So she came in, and I ultimately let her go because she didn't show, no call, no show, didn't show up for work, right? And then I get this letter from the state, right? And they're like this person's claiming you had all these unpaid wages, and we have to launch an investigation. And I'd never done anything like this before, right? I'm just trying to do right by people, grow this thing, and so I had someone who completely lied, assassinated my character, said that I was a racist. It was hard, man. So I remember it wrecked me for a week. Oh, so you talk about gut punches? It's it wrecked me for a week because I felt man, all I'm trying to do is, just do business with integrity, because that was who I was. And then someone comes in and just drags you through the mud. And I'll never forget, I was sitting at the table. I was sitting at the table with the state mediator guy and her, and just I brought all this evidence, all the proof, and she just had her testimony, and it was I ended up having to pay all this money, and so that was where you just kind of realized, hey, this is just part of it, right?
Gonna point this at this one.
Yeah, we gotta cool these GoPros down.
We do. It's the sun.
We got the sun.
Yeah.
We have the coolest recording studio ever at 16,500 feet right now. I can see on your instrument.
We're trying.
Can't read anything else up here on your instruments except for that one.
16,500. We're doing 180 knots. We got a little bit of thunderstorms out front of us, but we're back on there, which is good. So yeah, I figure if we try to hit it a little bit inside there. Right there, that should be good. So, and this cloud cover hopefully help. Okay, so with all that, how did you get past that? How did you not let? You said it took it hit you for a week. So do you remember what happened?
Yeah. So the lesson for me was what I realized was that there's no fairness in business. The marketplace doesn't care. Your employees don't nobody cares about your feelings. To be honest with you, there's no room for you to wallow in self-pity and say, oh, it was me, and be the victim. And so I just, and really that was the point where I realized that it's just the cost of doing business, right? Stuff is just going to happen, and you're going to get the punches thrown. And as cliche as it sounds, just getting back up after the punches are thrown is just it became a wiring, right? It's okay, that happened, cool, got it, acknowledged, solution. That's it. I wired my brain in time, right? One of the concepts that I love for this is a pain threshold, right? Your organization and your success in life is only going to grow to the ability of you to handle that pain threshold, right? And so it's just painful, right? You have employees, you multiply your responsibility. You have a responsibility, the money that you create, to steward that money, and that responsibility multiplies. And so you just get better at handling, and so things that used to hurt, you get, your pain threshold goes higher, and so they don't hurt as much, and you just get better and you get back up. I think that's really it.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. I've been through a lot of pain in my time, and you start building up like calluses a little bit, right? So like you can go through, you can do harder things each time. And I think that's really key. Okay, so the next, obviously, we'll fast forward a little bit just based on time, but there's a lot of like these trials and tribulations that happen over time until you start seeing success, right? You start kind of like just going through, and little by little this identity just gets chipped off. The next kind of piece that I want to talk to is this like point where you start this business, this LadyBoss business. You've got Yolanda, your first customer. Now you have some more customers, right? And you're starting to see a little bit of success, and you get to a point where you say, you know what, like this is working. Like I actually feel like Michael Hay called it the point of no return. This is a point where you've gone through this identity shift, and you're starting to kill off that old identity to the point where you actually feel more like the person that you are trying to be. And there's this outer journey, right? This goal of like big money usually, or success or fame or whatever that may be. And the inner journey is kind of who you're becoming. So this point of no return is like my favorite spot. It's like you're closer to the destination than you are from where you started. Do you remember that moment in this journey of LadyBoss where you're like, hey, you know what? Like I really feel like we're going to make it. Like this is going to work. So that point of no return, like do you remember that point where you were kind of like, hey, this is like we're actually closer to the destination. We're seeing success. And it's a no-brainer. Like we can get rid of plan B, plan C, or anything else that's going on. We're going all in on LadyBoss.
I think the point of no return was right before we got our office. And so it's actually right before that story that I just told, but on the timeline of things. But I think what's important is that we had this moment, and it was the point of no return moment. It was the point of like, are we going to build this business and really serve the women that we're called to serve, or are we just going to play small and live a laptop lifestyle and work a couple hours here and there and like keep our online business going, right? So for me, helping them through that process that I went through, in hopes that I can help them not make the same mistakes I did, to get there faster and easier for them. That's where my heart is. Like it's like I relate to that so much, having done it and built it, right? And we were talking about this earlier. Like I'm a builder, right? Like I want to be in it. Like I want to be like rolling up my sleeves, and so those are the two things that we're working on right now, and just leaving space and leaving some space and being patient. I've talked to a lot of guys over the last couple months that have sold their business, or sold a business, or like how did you do it after? How'd you deal with it? And all of them said, don't rush into something right away, right? Like don't just sprint full steady speed into something. You gotta give it time to develop and unfold. And so I'm leaving definitely a lot of space on my calendar for what's next. I don't feel like I'm ready to just like jumpstart a new D2C company. I'm just really excited to help other people with theirs, and then just see where that takes me ultimately.
Nice, I love it. All right, we're like full cycle in a 10-year period in a 20-minute airplane ride at this point for LadyBoss from start to finish.
Yeah, man.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, man.
We could have spent 3 days talking about this, I'm sure.
I think so.
So how can people find out more about you guys and what you're doing? What's the best way for them to find you guys?
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. BrandonPoulin.com, KaelinPoulin.com. There you go. And then we're on Instagram, Facebook. Both of us are. Yeah, so just hit us up there and connect with us. And you guys, I gotta tell the audience before we leave. Like I've met a lot of smart people. Like Bill is like a stud. Like this guy, not only is he smart, but he can do it while he's flying, and he's flying an airplane doing a podcast interview.
I'm currently trying to stay out of this restricted area before we finish, because that would be a major flight violation for us. And there's also some nasty clouds out there. I don't know what GoPros are still recording at this spot, but if they can't see, it's like there's like some clouds and stuff that I'm not allowed to fly into right now. So there's a little bit of like task saturation.
Maybe
that's what test pods do. Test pods actually see like the reaction time and the task saturation. What we do is we actually look for when people break down. So when do they stop listening? When do they stop talking? When do they stop moving? And a really good pilot, a really good like test pod specifically, they can handle a lot more tasks than other people. So I'm not good at multitasking specifically, but I know I have a higher threshold. You talk about pain threshold for task saturation. So, but you also mentioned during the show complacency and comfort. That's where most pilots get in trouble. They get comfortable. I did a pre-flight here. I looked at all the layout, how much time we had to do it all, planned it in my head before we got started, so that I can make better decisions along the way. And I think that's a great relationship to business. Business the same way. If you know where you are, like you really know where you are, most people don't know where they are, and they won't accept where they are. They know where they want to go. Then they can plan out the best way to get there and make little jibs and they can make little changes along the way to find their path when landmines pop up. And that's what it is. Like, we had to go around a thunderstorm cloud here on the show. We had to, I've had to slow down. I pulled the power back. I'm looking at our speed, everything. I'm also changing frequencies to you to talk to you back.
While interviewing.
Yeah. So, and trying to listen and everything, and also make sure all the GoPros, like, talk about, like, we're like...
There's texting while you're, like, driving, and then there's, like, I don't know where it falls. I think with you, it's I feel safe, bro.
I'm glad. It's pretty quiet out here in West Texas, New Mexico. We're about to fly over one of the biggest restricted areas in the world.
We're over New Mexico?
We're about to fly over. We're just very close to Albuquerque. You know where Holloman Air Force Base is? There's tons of restricted areas. They do a ton of bomb testing over here. It's crazy. So I don't want to get us in trouble. So spell your name so they know how to get there, because it's not a typical name that they could probably spell.
Yeah. BRANDONPOULIN.
Cool.
And then Kaelin's is KAELINPOULIN.com.
Awesome. So if you guys can go there, check them out. You grab their Instagram. Well, obviously, we'll put it in the description, the notes, all that stuff. If we're sending out an email, we'll drop it in there. And thanks for hanging out with me today. This is like my first actual interview in the airplane, so it was a ton of fun, and I learned a lot. And I now can figure out what to do and what not to do in the future.
Go, man. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.